Hello, Gene Monterastelli, tappingqanda.com. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you and thank everybody who participated in this year's 30-day tapping challenge. Our goal at the beginning of the tapping challenge was, as a community, to do 15,000 rounds of tapping, people all over the world doing that. And we crossed over 20,000 rounds of tapping. So it just warms my heart to know all the work that myself and my team did to put that together, to create those videos, to put them out in the world, that you participated and you shared in the tapping goodness. And I just want you to know that I really appreciate all of the shares, all of the likes, and all of the amazing, amazing comments that many of you shared, of phrases that resonated with you, tail enders that came up, insights that came from that. It just makes it so much easier for me and my team to keep producing content exactly like that, so you can tap along with us as we go forward in the future. Now that the tapping challenge is over, what I wanted to do is I just wanted to give you a little behind the scenes look as to how the tapping challenge was created. Because I didn't just come up with a list of 30 things and we just tapped on them and I just made stuff up as I was looking into the camera and tapping along with you. There was actually a lot of design and intent behind the challenge, and I wanted to share that with you so that as you go back to the videos, you can see the intent behind it, so you can add that to your tapping practice. And the really cool thing is, in the comments that I was seeing and the phrases that were resonating with you as we did this, it was obvious that you're actually seeing what we were trying to do, and that makes me so happy. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's look at why and how the challenge was put together the way that it was. So in order for you to understand kind of the bigger picture of what is going on behind the challenge, we actually need to take another step up above the challenge itself and just kind of think about why I do what I do and how I tap and what my intention is. Now, one of the things that I have in my fridge is something that I call my why jar. It is a 32-ounce pitcher of water that I fill up every single morning, and the goal is over the course of the day to drink all of the water inside of that. And the reason why I call it my why jar is because every single time I fill my glass of water up, what I do is I say one of my whys out loud. Because for me, if I'm in touch with why I am doing the work that I'm doing, why I'm living the life that I'm living, it makes it so much easier for me to take the actions that are useful and to create a life that I love. And so I have whys about my personal health, about my spirituality, about my relationships, about my friends and family and how I engage with the world, about creativity, and I have one primary why about the work that I do. And that why is about why I'm showing up and sharing what I'm doing. And that why is every single day as I sit down at this desk, my goal is to create tools and opportunities for people to live authentic lives. Because when they live authentic lives, they create lives that they love, which makes their world better, which makes the world better, which makes my world better. And so every single morning when I fill up this first glass of water, before I come in here and I sit down to work, I say that out loud. And I don't just ramble through it, but I really, really tune into it, because tapping is such an amazingly powerful tool in helping us to create authentic lives. But just having an intention of creating an authentic life is not enough. So let me show you exactly through 5 layers how I think about creating authentic lives. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how this year's challenge fits into that particular design. So the image that you are seeing right here with the 5 lines going from top to bottom as they get from big to small, kind of like an inverted pyramid, is how I like to think about my approach. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through these 5 levels and work our way down to the bottom so that you can kind of see what we're doing here. And so level number 1 is living an authentic life. And like I just said, that is the goal of everything that I'm doing when I'm creating tapping resources. And for me, when I say creating an authentic life, what I mean is being comfortable inside of our own skin. And when I'm comfortable inside of my own skin, I have a really clear understanding of what my wants are, what my needs are, what my preferences are. I understand what I'm good at, what I'm not. I understand the standard I want to hold myself to. I understand what I'm not very good at, and I don't judge myself harshly for those things that I'm not very good at. And what this does is it helps me to create direction and purpose in figuring out what that authentic life looks like in my spiritual life, in my relationships, in my health, and the work that I do, in how I show up in the world. And for some of us, one of those areas is significantly easier than other areas. I've always been super, super comfortable professionally in having a really clear direction where, as you know the story of my social anxiety and how I found my way to tapping, there are lots of areas of my life where that hasn't always been the case, where I haven't been comfortable inside of my own skin, which limited myself going out there. So at this very, very high level, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an authentic life. Now, this next level down, I call consistently and imperfectly taking authentic action. And what I mean by this is we can't just have this idea of an authentic life. We actually have to take action in order to do that. And so there's three parts to that. There is authentic action, there is consistent, and there is imperfect. And let's look at all three of those. So authentic action are taking those actions that are in line with who we want to be or are in line with creating the life that we want to create, moving towards the goals that we want to have. I think that's the part that's pretty self-evident. The second part, consistently. Now, creating an authentic life, in at least my own experience, is not I take a single action and poof, there is an authentic life. I am open to the possibility that someday there will be some perfect action that I can take and everything will fall into place. But I recognize, and the reason why I do tapping every single morning is to set myself up to know today is a new opportunity for me to take a bunch of authentic actions. Now, authentic actions are not perfect actions. Authentic actions are not the actions I'm going to take for the rest of my life, but they're the actions I think that are the most useful to create that. And every single time I take an action, I get feedback. I learn, is this the action that's going to help me to create that life that I love, or do I need to recalibrate? And the third component of that is imperfectly. The thing that I am certain is never going to happen, though I'm open to the possibility of it. But the thing that is never going to happen is I'm never going to do this perfectly. I'm not going to take perfect action, and I'm not going to take those actions every single time. So I'm perfectly taking action after action after action. The beautiful thing about the human experience is that we can actually create authentic lives that we love. We can create circumstances that make our soul sing without us having to be perfect every single time. And so for me, consistently and perfectly taking authentic action is the way that I get to that particular place. And some days that is super, super easy to do. Other days, that is super, super hard. Some minutes, that's super, super easy, while other moments, it is not. And so for me, as I'm evaluating my day, as I'm evaluating my week, as I'm evaluating how I am moving through this world, I'm constantly and consistently giving myself a little grace, recognizing the fact it is going to be inconsistent and imperfect as I try to consistently take those actions. Now, the third layer down to being able to create an authentic life that we love is we need to know what those authentic actions are. And it's actually a skill knowing what actions to take next. Now, sometimes when we're trying to figure out what the authentic actions that we need to be taking to create the thing that we want is big and complicated and a plan. So for example, this 30-day challenge that you were a part of, 2 months before the challenge began, as I was sitting down and I was setting it out and doing all of the work on it, I had a to-do list that was 150 tasks long. And 30 of those tasks weren't recording 30 videos. One task was recording 30 videos because there was coming up with the design and the music and the images that were on the screen and writing the emails and creating ways for you to opt in and all of the pieces around it, big and small. There were all of these steps. And in order to do that, I had to have this vision to be able to do it. Other times, knowing what to do is a simple, small thing. Like the action that I need to take to do an authentic presentation or an authentic be in the moment, it might be simply being, before I make this phone call, before I walk into the room, before I get up to give a presentation, before I make an ask, I just take 2 minutes and I do a little tapping so that I can put myself back into my body and I can be grounded. But we are not simply, at least in my experience, going to purely through intuition and inspiration know the actions that we need to be taking in order to create an authentic life. And this doesn't mean that we have to have this to-do list with every single thing that we're going to do today and every single thing that we're going to do this week, this month, this year to create that authentic life. But we do need to have a plan and we do need to have steps, and it's a skill for us to be able to craft that. And so as you're seeing, as we work our way through this, is we have to have a sense of what that authentic life looks like. We have to consistently take action and be gentle with ourselves and our imperfection in that. And the next layer down is knowing what those actions are so that we can start creating that life. The fourth layer down of this process is knowing what is the resistance to us taking action. We need to be in a circumstance where we know what is holding us back, because sometimes we know exactly what to do, but we're not able to do it. But for me to authentically take action, I need to know what to do. I need to know how to do it. I need to have the resources to do it, the time, the energy, the whatever. And I need to be emotionally clear in order to do that. And so as we go through those four things, knowing what to do, how to do it, having the resources, and being emotionally clear, you can see it kind of falls into two buckets. The first bucket is the practical bucket. Do I know how to take the step? Do I have the resources to do it? And sometimes the resources might be the tools that we need to be able to make the thing. Sometimes the resources we need is the time and the energy. But if we don't have the understanding, the know-how, and the resources and the capacity to do it, it's not possible for us to do it. So we need to have this practical understanding and in place. And so we need to name the things that are in the way of us taking action. Because at that third layer, if we know what to do, we know how to do it, we have the resources, and we have the emotional capacity to do it, we're just going to take action. We don't fall to this fourth level until we are in a circumstance where we need to figure that out. So half of it is the practical part, and the other half of it is the emotional part. And in the past, I would say, I need to figure out what my emotional resistance is. And the thing that has changed for me in the last 4 or 5 months is the way that I'm framing this emotional resistance. And this is the thing that showed up over and over again in the tapping scripts that we did this month. And this is the thing that I was so excited that so many of you were able to identify. And the framework that I call this is I call this SAWD, S-A-W-D. And what SAWD means is these are 4 entry points that we get a chance to look and figure out where the emotional resistance is. Because if we have one of these 4 SAWD stories, we're not going to take action. And this is what those 4 letters stand for. S stands for safe. A stands for allowed. W stands for worthy. And D stands for deserving. And the reality is we will not take an action if the action does not feel safe. We will not take an action if we don't feel like we're allowed. We will not take an action if we don't think we're worthy of the action or worthy of the outcome. We will not take action if we don't feel like we are deserving of taking the action or deserving the outcome. And what's really, really interesting is, and we use those words over and over again in the tapping, is that sometimes we have an obstacle with one of them. Sometimes we have an obstacle with multiple of them. Sometimes we have an obstacle with all 4 of them. And by design, those 4 letters aren't just there because they spell the word cleverly. For me, that is the order we engage with things. Because primarily, we will not do anything if we feel unsafe. The subconscious mind will prevent us from going there. So the first thing we need to look at, is it safe? Is it safe for me to take action? Is it safe to be seen taking that action? Is it safe for me to be successful? The second is, am I allowed? And oftentimes we carry these cultural stories that the people in my family, the people of my religion, the people of my gender, the people in my city, people like me aren't allowed to do this thing. And if you don't feel like you're allowed, you're never going to do it, because if you are not allowed, you're afraid that if you do it, you'll be judged and be pushed outside of the tribe. And to the subconscious mind, there's nothing more dangerous than being pushed outside of the tribe. Now, the last 2, worthy and deserve, they might sound like synonyms, but the way I define them, they're not actually the same thing. For me, worthy means birthright, where deserve means transaction. I am worthy of self-love because I am made human. I am deserving of being paid because I have done work. Now, what's really, really interesting is I can be in a circumstance where I can think and believe I am worthy of self-love, but I'm not deserving of that self-love because of this mistake and that mistake, and I've squandered it, and whatever the story is. And so this 4th level is all about figuring out why we are not taking action. And sometimes, again, this is something that is global. I am not starting the project because one of these sod stories are showing up, or I'm not starting the project because I don't have the practical things in place. Or it can be in a circumstance where it is a single step. It is a single action. It's a single place. I'm in a circumstance where I've created something really, really awesome, and I'm just not sending the email to people to invite them to do that particular thing. And so what we need to do in this 4th layer down is we need to figure out what is getting in the way of us taking action. The 5th layer down is all about doing the work to allow ourselves to take that action. So again, from the practical side, it could be taking a class. It could be asking for help. It could be hiring someone to do the thing for us. It could be clearing out a Saturday afternoon so I can dedicate time to it. It could be making sure I'm getting a good night rest and I'm stretching in the morning and I'm eating my vitamins and I have a good breakfast so I'm ready to do the thing in front of me. Other times, it is about clearing out the emotional blocks that are in the way. And this 30-day challenge is a perfect example of one way of doing that. It's finding a resource, tapping along, and clearing it. And this is the place where the art of delivery shows up in tapping, because there's so many different ways for us to discover and then clear that story. Because I could be in a circumstance where I have a story that says I am not allowed to do it, and I could just start tapping and saying, there's a part of me that believes I'm not allowed. I give myself permission to know I'm allowed. There's a part of me that thinks I'm not allowed. I give myself permission to know I'm allowed. Or at the exact same time, I could be in a circumstance where, as I think about it, or I'm working with a practitioner, I recognize, oh, when I was really little, I learned this story, and I might do parts work and I do inner child work, where I go work with that 5-year-old version of me that learned the lesson that I'm not allowed to do this thing. And I go and I work with that 5-year-old part and I create transformation. And so you can see at a high level, when we approach it in this way, at least for me, I find it so much easier to create an authentic life. I want to create an authentic life by consistently and imperfectly taking authentic action, by knowing the steps I need to be taking, by understanding what is preventing me from taking those actions, and then doing the work to clear that particular resistance. So that is how the design of the challenge came about this year. But I don't want it to stop there. Now, you can certainly go back and the videos live on YouTube forever. You can go back and you can tap along to them again and again and again, and you can send yourself email reminders and you can go to the bookmarks and you can tap along it. And that is a way forward. But what I want to do is I actually want to give you an opportunity to go significantly farther, to really take this framework that I just shared with you, and I want you to master it in such a way so you can find what is holding you back, so you can have the most effective tools to be able to clear those things for yourself, for the people that you work with, so that you can be a better helper in the world, or you can create a more authentic life yourself. And so that's the reason why I created something that's called the Authentic Action Academy. What it actually is it's an evolution of my art of delivery class that evolved into First Action, Best Action. And over the course of the last years, I've been thinking about this authentic action and thinking about this framework. I wanted to put it in a way that made it really easy and available for you. And the really cool thing is the framework that I just showed you, those 5 layers, what I want to do is I want to teach you that process absolutely free. I want to give you a 2.5-hour training where you can dive in and you can learn and you can understand and you can see all the nuances, each of those steps, and have tools at each one of those steps. And in addition to that 2.5 hours of training, I want to provide you 4 bonus calls where you're just going to get on Zoom with me and the other people who are going through the program and get a chance to ask questions, to do some tapping. So you're not just getting information, but after you get the information, you're going to get out and try it in your own life and play around with it. To get full information about the Authentic Action Academy, how you can get involved, how you can get the awesome bonus of the Tapping Action Journal, all you need to do is go to tappingqanda.com/AAA. It really is that simple. tappingqanda.com/AAA. That's 3 lowercase a's. You will get all of the information on how you can sign up, how you can join us. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered in the video here, feel free to drop it in the comments down below, or you can always email me directly at support@tappingqanda.com. That's support@tappingqanda.com. I am support. I am the one getting those emails. I would love to answer any question that you have about this process and about what we're doing in the year going forward. Once again, I just want to thank you for trusting me this month. Thank you for the 20,000 rounds of tapping that we did as a community. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for just participating and trying to create a little transformation in your life. Because again, when your life is better, the world is better. And when the world is better, my world is better. So every single time you sat down and you tapped along with some of this, not only did you do something for yourself, you did something for me, and you did something for the rest of the tapping community. On the screen, you're going to see the link to the entire playlist of this year's tapping challenge and the 3 years before it, so you always have access to tap along. For Tapping Q&A's, Gene Monterastelli, thanks for tapping with me, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.